Good evening and welcome to the WDSU News Hot Seat. I'm Travers Mackel. The primary election is over and now we are in runoff season with a bunch of races on the ballot. We continue our hot seat debates tonight. Up tonight, the race for Jefferson Parish Council District 2. It pits two men against one another. Both are Republicans. Both are here tonight. It's a runoff between Dino Bonanno and Michael O'Brien. Now, District 2 is an open seat. It's currently held by Paul Johnston. He's barred by term limits from seeking re-election. He did run unsuccessfully for an at-large seat. District 2 contains parts of the East Bank and West Bank, places like Metairie, Harahan, River Ridge, and West Wego. Thank you all for being here, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
We're going to begin with a brief opening statement. We're going to go alphabetically. So, Mr. Bonanno, you have 1 minute to make an opening statement.
Thank you. I'm Dino Bonanno. I'm a lifelong resident of Jefferson Parish. Graduated from college in December of 1987 and came straight to work for Jefferson Parish. I spent my entire career serving the people of this parish, not only in my professional capacity, but in my volunteer work as well. I was a volunteer firefighter, I'm a reserve police officer, a volunteer coach at the playgrounds, and the scoutmaster at my kids' school, among other things. I've had a lot of different jobs in the parish over my 30-year career, but I'm most proud of the fact that I was the parish's first Homeland Security chief following Hurricane Katrina, and I led the recovery of this parish from that great storm. That meant I had to work with 6 different cities, 6 mayors, 6 police chiefs, 17 fire chiefs. I'm most proud of the fact that we spent tens of millions of dollars in Homeland Security grants to recover this parish, and we came back faster than anyone, and as a result of that, we're more resilient today than ever. And I've always prided myself on the ability to work with people, and I want to do that now at the next level to be your councilman to move this parish forward in the next 4 years. Thank you.
Mr. Bonanno, thank you very much. Mr. O'Brien, same thing. You have 60 seconds to make an opening statement.
Well, thank you. My name is Michael O'Brien, and I would be honored to work for the residents of Jefferson Parish Council District 2. I graduated from Tulane University with a degree in finance. I spent the last 19 years serving as president of my family business, which is in the international transportation industry. Jefferson Parish is doing good, but it can be doing much better and should be doing much better. I believe that District 2 is an economic engine for Jefferson Parish, which is why I think that educated person in business should be the one to steer that ship in the right direction into the future. If fortunate enough to be elected to serve the residents of Jefferson Parish, I will work with fellow council members to make sure that we increase economic opportunities, we grow our economy, and we make sure that Jefferson Parish is a better place to live, work, and raise their family. I will do this without raising tax dollars. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you all both. And by the way, you're both under the 1 minute mark. We appreciate that. We'll start this question with you, Mr. O'Brien. It's a big issue that people watching want to know about on the East Bank and on the West Bank. It's the landfill. It's plagued people on the West Bank. It's also led to a smell in places like River Ridge and Harahan. If elected, in 60 seconds, what is your plan for the Jefferson Parish landfill?
Well, I live in River Ridge, so I deal with this problem. My family deals with this problem. It is frustrating that our parish decided to accept industrial chemical waste into the parish. It was not a smart decision. They looked at the quick dollars. They didn't look at the long-term effect. We're now dealing with the long-term effect, right? We have floating particulate matter coming in the air. The quality of life is being affected, and it doesn't seem like anything's being done. Millions of dollars are being put into play and nothing's being done. We're not having any answers. So if fortunate enough to be council, this is in District 3, but my constituents in District 2 are being affected. So I will, on day 1, go over there, check the checks and balances, dot the I's, cross the T's, make sure that everything's being done to fix and remedy this problem.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Bonanno, same question in 60 seconds. If elected, what is your plan for the parish landfill that's plagued people on the West Bank and has also been an issue on the East Bank?
I've developed a very specific 5-point plan that's included on my website if you want to go watch it. And the heart of that plan is installing fixed in place air quality monitors all up and down the river, because it's not just a landfill. First of all, with respect to the landfill, I think we need to find a way to temporarily close our landfill until we can make all the proper repairs to it. But there are other sources of odors, and that's where the air quality monitors are going to come in. We need to hold the individuals that are polluting our parish accountable. There's midstream loading going on, there's barge cleaning going on, there's all types of activities up and down the river that are causing different types of odors. When you smell a chemical smell or an oil smell, that is not the landfill, that's another source of odors. So we have to have a plan to be able to determine what's in the air, find out who's putting it there, and hold them accountable. That's the only way we're going to solve this problem. The landfill is just one piece of the puzzle.
All right, we'll start this question with you, Mr. Bonanno. Again, 60 seconds to answer this question. It's a unique district, District 2. It has the East Bank and the West Bank. If elected, What is your first priority to make sure that you can work for everybody in this district on both sides of the river and make sure the diverse district is covered? You have 60 seconds.
Well, if you heard my opening statement, I have worked for this parish for 31 years. I've worked with all the mayors, the police chiefs, the fire chiefs. I have intimate knowledge of all the parish's infrastructure and our budget. No one's better situated to work with all these individuals to find solutions for the problems that they have, especially our infrastructure. We need to find a long-term program, fund a long-term program for drainage, sewage, and streets without raising taxes. We have a lot of money in our budget. For instance, we have $145 million now sitting what we call fund balances. That's a savings account. But we can't spend them on our priorities because we've handcuffed ourselves by dedicating them to specific budgets such as juvenile services, garbage, recreation, libraries. When they have surpluses, we can't move those. I want to work with the parishes, citizens, and our cities to be able to move those monies around without raising taxes to fund long-term infrastructure needs.
All right, Mr. O'Brien, same question. It's a very unique district, District 2. It has the East Bank and the West Bank, a diverse district. If elected, what is your #1 priority to make sure that everybody is properly represented in District 2? Again, you have 60 seconds.
Well, I've lived, worked, and raised my children on both sides of the districts. I understand the needs, the wants of both sides of the district. The West Bank is very different than the East Bank. We have two municipalities. We have Westwego and the city of Harahan. I'm proud to be supported by the entire city of Harahan staff and several from Westwego. I know these wants and needs. I will get with those elected officials to determine how I can help those municipalities. The unincorporated parts of Jefferson Parish, I understand the flooding issues in River Ridge and in Old Jefferson. I understand that there's a crime issue. I will work with the sheriff on the West Bank side. There's a blighted problem issue. There's a cat problem in Westwego that needs to be addressed. There in Harvey and Marrero, there's a flood issue that needs to be addressed. I know these problems, and I will work with the municipalities and other elected officials, state representatives, along with the community members. Again, I've lived, worked, and raised my children on both sides. I didn't read in a handbook. I know exactly what the wants and needs. My education and professionalism will help me get that job done.
Here's a 30-second answer for you all, since you brought this up. They do have two municipalities that are very unique. Westwego on the West Bank, Harahan on the East Bank. They have a council, a mayor, police chief that are all elected. In 30 seconds, we'll start with you and then finish with Mr. Bonanno. How do you work with those two unique municipalities on both sides of the river if you're elected in 30 seconds?
Well, again, it's just sitting there and listening to their wants and needs, okay? They're in charge of their own city. I can only provide what I've learned throughout my professional experience and throughout my education to help them address. There's dedicated funds that I can push their way. There's different ways to find and help them raise economic value. Again, without money, we can't replace the infrastructures in our cities. So I have the business sense, I have the education to sit down and have the outside-the-box thinking to help. The city of Harahan is the only city, the only incorporated city in Jefferson Parish that does not receive casino money. I will help find a way to improve there.
All right, Mr. Bonanno, same question in 30 seconds. Westwego and Harahan, two unique municipalities in District 2. If elected, what is your plan to make sure that you work with both of those unique municipalities?
Well, I don't have to have a plan. I've worked with both of them for 30 years. I know all the players. I know many of the citizens. I've fought fires in both of those places. I've been a police officer across this parish. So I have an understanding of how to work with these individuals, how to reach out to them and help maximize their dollars by helping the parish, having the parish assist them in a lot of their programs. For instance, we bid things in a greater volume than those little cities. They can come aboard with us and bid on use our contracts to provide services and goods to their citizens a lot cheaper than they can on their own.
All right, we have some other issues in District 2, but let's talk politics here. This is a political position. We'll start with you, Mr. Bonanno. There are two people in the race for governor right now, current Governor John Bel Edwards and Eddie Rispone. One's a Democrat, one's a Republican. Are you backing either one of those candidates?
I am not backing either one of those. I've been laser focused on District 2 in Jefferson Parish, and that's where my focus is going to continue to be. I'm a staunch Republican. I've been endorsed by Steve Scalise, the Louisiana's top Republican, and I ask the people of Louisiana to study the issues, study both candidates closely, and determine who is best for you as governor.
All right, really quickly, Mr. O'Brien, same thing in politics. John Bel Edwards versus Eddie Rispone. Have you chosen a side? Are you backing anybody in the governor's race?
I am not backing anyone in the governor. I am also worried about Jefferson Parish and Council District 2. What's right is right, wrong is wrong. You know, we have Republican parties, we have Democratic parties, we have independents. I am a Republican as well. I was endorsed by the Jefferson Parish Republican Party, but at the end of the day, common sense is common sense, and I care about this state and this parish.
All right, really quickly, another political question. We'll start this one with you, Mr. O'Brien. The West Bank of your district is represented right now by John Ilario, a power player in state politics from the State House to the State Senate, but he's retiring at the end of this year. Somebody else has been elected now to that position. In 30 seconds, how do you fill that void at the state level? Because obviously John Ilario was a great friend to District 2, especially on the West Bank. In 30 seconds, what is your plan to fill that void?
It's tough to fill that void. It's tough for me to talk about it in 30 seconds. John has been an extreme, amazing asset to Louisiana, Jefferson Parish, and especially the city of West Wego. Filling his shoes is not going to happen overnight. I love the family. I'm endorsed by the family. I have nothing but respect for the man. Whoever fills his shoes has got a lot to live up. But I will work with that individual at any capacity to make sure that the city, the West Bank, continues to grow. I spent 38 years of my life on it. I care about it, and it has been neglected, and I will help it.
All right, Mr. Bonanno, same question in 30 seconds. How will you work to fill the void being left by John Ilario, especially on the West Bank of District 2, in 30 seconds?
Certainly losing John is a huge loss for the citizens of Jefferson Parish, and I intend to work with all of our legislators, not just the one who's replacing John Ilario, using my experience in the past 30 years, not as an elected official, this is my first time running, but it's someone who's had many different roles in parish government, to provide that experience and knowledge and proven leadership to our legislature to help them move forward, to help them migrate through all the challenges that's facing Baton Rouge.
All right, we'll start this question with you, Mr. Bonanno. It's a 1-minute answer, 60 seconds. West Jefferson Medical Center is on the West Bank. It's leased to LCMC. There's about $90 million remaining in parish accounts to spend for medical needs. If elected in 1 minute, how would you direct the parish to spend that money?
What people need to understand is we have far fewer children in Jefferson Parish today than we did 30 years ago. But we got a lot larger senior citizen population, and the number of seniors grow by the day. We need to spend that money wisely on our senior population, especially to ensure that they have the medical facilities and the services that they need in their golden years. It pains me to know that we have senior citizens today who are on a waiting list for Meals on Wheels because we don't have enough money to feed them. That's where we need to be focused on. We need to focus on the needs of our growing population of senior citizens.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bonanno. 60 seconds, Mr. O'Brien, same question. West Jeff Medical Center is leased to LCMC. There's about $90 million that the parish can spend. If elected, how would you direct the parish to spend that money?
Well, in answering that question directly, being someone who has a finance major, business background, there's some cost-benefit analysis that need to be reviewed. You know, we have to look at some ratios. We have to see how they're spending the money. If it's efficient throughout this parish and throughout this state, we are wasting millions of dollars. So before giving that full answer, I have to look at the books. I'm qualified to look at the books, show me the numbers, and I need to see how we can cut, how we can grow. Well, I agree, the seniors have a lot we need to give to them, but so does the 2-year-old when they show up, the 10-year-old, the 12-year-old. They also need attention at the hospital. So again, to better answer that question, I would have to review the books, analyze the answer. I will never make a decision as councilman without doing a cost-benefit analysis on just about every single decision I make, and that's one of them.
All right, we're going to start this question with you, Mr. O'Brien. Let's do it in 30 seconds because we are getting near the midpoint to the end of the debate here. Elmwood Business District is in your district if you're elected. What is your plan in 30 seconds to make sure that that area continues to grow and to lure new business to Elmwood in 30 seconds?
And this is no disrespect to my opponent, but I am the only one that has the business sense, the background to help Mr. Louis Lauricella grow that. His project he's a pioneer. He wants to bring some of the New Orleans business to Elmwood. He wants to change the structure of it. He wants to live better with concrete. I have young children. I understand what the millennials want. The Main Street opportunity that he's looking to bring back to that area is amazing. I'm passionate about his vision. I would love to be councilman to work with him on that. And again, like I said, I have the business sense to help him.
All right, Mr. Bonanno, same question in 30 seconds. Elmwood Business Park is a big district there. If you're elected to District 2 in 30 seconds, what is your plan to continue to make that grow and lure new business to Elmwood?
Well, Elmwood Shopping Center is not the only business in Elmwood. There's thousands of businesses in Elmwood. And we have to use opportunities that are available to us like TIFs, tax incremental financing, and other incentives to lure new business there to maintain business. only someone who has the knowledge and leadership ability that I have through the last 30 years understands how the parish works and understands how we can use our incentives to attract new business here, to give them opportunities not only to move here, but to stay here. Jefferson Parish's Council District 2 is uniquely situated to be the next economic engine for the entire parish.
All right, we'll start this with you. Another 30-second answer here, Mr. Bonanno. The UEP Long Bridge expansion has been great for Elmwood, but a lot of people thought it would help the West Bank as well, too. If elected, what is your plan to make sure that that bridge expansion can benefit areas like Bridge City and the West Bank? You have 30 seconds.
So as I just said, District 2 has the unique position to be the next economic engine for the parish. With the reopening of Avondale shipyards, we have a lot of opportunities with all the vacant land around it, using tax incremental financing, and Avondale is now a federal opportunity zone, which means they get federal incentives to move into that area. By going out and being actively engaged in the business community, going out and seeking businesses to move here, encouraging them to get here, and bringing them the opportunities that we can provide to get them to move to Jefferson Parish.
All right, same question, Mr. O'Brien. The UEP Long Bridge expansion was a big boom for Elmwood, but if elected, what is your plan to let that bridge expansion, help that bridge expansion grow areas like Bridge City? In 30 seconds.
I've said this at a number of different forums. We have opportunity zone advantages that were granted to us by the federal government right there in Bridge City, Avondale, for businesses to come in and get breaks, tax breaks, to grow our economy. We can't repair anything in our infrastructures without money. Further down the road in Avondale, we have the Fairfield project, 5,000 plus acres of land that is looking to be developed. We have to be smart about how we develop that. It is proven that with politicians, it hasn't been done. That bridge has been fixed for how long and what's been brought there. I have the education experience to do that.
All right, we have a lot more questions. Unfortunately, we are running out of time here, so we're going to have closing statements. You have 40 seconds. We said 30 seconds or a minute. Let's just go right in the middle, kind of. We'll go 40 seconds with a closing statement. We'll start with you, Mr. O'Brien, and then followed by you, Mr. Bonanno. So you have 40 seconds to let voters know why you feel you're the best candidate for District 2.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, first off, I appreciate the opportunity. I am not a politician. I don't believe the same thoughts that politicians and elected officials for the most part do. I am running to bring business sense, quality of life to Jefferson Parish. I care about the future. I have the education. I have the experience. I have the passion. I have the drive to see that the job gets done and it gets done right. Again, this is my family, your family, and the future of Jefferson Parish. And if we're going to grow, if we're going to grow smart, we need to stop putting friends of friends into office. We need to start making decisions of putting business-minded, business education, because it's those types of people that need to make these decisions. It's been proven. It's not moving. We need to get the job done. Thanks.
Mr. O'Brien, thank you. Mr. Bonanno, you have 40 seconds to let voters know why you feel you're the best candidate to represent District 2.
I've spent my entire adult life in the service of people of Jefferson Parish. I've proven leadership skills. I have led this parish through some of its worst times. Hurricanes Gustav and Ike, the BP oil spill, the Westwego tornado, and others. I'm a proven leader with the knowledge and skills to move this parish forward. I run into burning buildings for free. I face down dangerous criminals. I even lived on Grand Isle for 4 months to fight the BP oil spill. And my commitment to this parish remains stronger today than ever, and it will never, ever waver. And I kindly ask for your vote.
All right, thank you very much. Dino Bonanno, Michael O'Brien, both Republicans, we appreciate your time. Election Day is about 1 month away in November. You can see this entire segment starting Monday online and, of course, on all of our social media apps. For The Hot Seat, I'm Travers Mackel.